episode 76 of Community Service Hour, broadcasting live from Philadelphia on Twitter and Twitch. You're going to want to see both because we have slides today. We got slides. This is a 3-part series workshop, how to build your own smart contract, but it is extremely beginner friendly. And most of the time, we're literally just talking about what is money and what is a code check. These are the two most important questions in blockchain, money and code checks. And if you didn't know, well, now you soon will. All right, ERC 721, non-fungible tokens. This is the same exact speech I gave before ERC 721 was finalized. I gave it in Shanghai first. This is the same presentation that I gave in 2018. So some of the figures will be a little outdated. Let's see if you can pick up on that. We're talking about ERC 20, which is something a lot of people knew about back then. I'm not assuming you do. ERC 721 is this new thing I was pitching. And at the time, basically, it was pictures of cats. And ERC 20s was a huge market for ICOs, $41 billion. And so now here's the main slide. But first, the question is, what is money? A lot of people compare money and tokens. I hope that everybody here has some understanding of money. Let's get into it. This is like Wolf of Wall Street when he's got the pen. He says, sell me this pen. This is what we're doing. What is money?
Do you want the dictionary definition or just like
real life experience, street definitions?
Money is printed notes that promise you that you can exchange it for services and goods backed by some sort of, I don't know, guarantee that it's worth something.
I think money is just the intermediary for exchange of goods and service. And it is used as an intermediary because we cannot just exchange it, how can I say, directly. Is that so?
There's no wrong answer here. So we can go different ways with this. Anybody else want to chime in?
Money is a state of energy, in a sense, since you can trade it.
You know, you've got kinetic energy, you've got potential energy. If commerce is an engine, then money's potential. Bonus points, I've never heard that analogy before, but I'll rock it. Now the question is, how do you use money? And we're going to go deep.
Before the digital way, we just use the paper money. And now we go cashless. So it's basically, it's just like one side added on the digital numbers and the other side deducting the numbers for your like.
So you're talking about numbers. So where are the numbers?
It's booked in your bank account and eventually in the central bank account for each bank.
Okay. So you've got your bank account and you've got their bank account and you've got central bank's accounts. So there's a lot of parties here. In this story, we're going to the coffee shop. We want to buy some coffee. What is the way that you're going to consummate this transaction?
Cash, credit, debit, check.
Pick one.
Debit.
Cool. So how's it work? Run it back.
You go to a place, you ask for your good, and then you swipe your card when prompted, and you may enter a PIN, and you'll get approved by the prompt, and then you get your good. You essentially perform a transaction.
That's cool. So debit cards are a little different than credit cards. They might feel the same. They might look the same. There's a bank account behind your debit card, and there's a merchant account behind the merchant. And the debit card this transaction is going to authorize money to go from the one bank account to the other. This will clear over a network, payment card network, Visa, MasterCard. How exactly does it get authorized?
Authorized as in like from different networks or just like one standalone network?
In the process of this process was kicked off by you physically swiping this card. Who is initiating this transaction?
That would be the person swiping their card.
Okay. Again, none of this is a trick because another correct answer could have been the merchant because they're the one who's dialed into the matrix, and you're the one that you physically have the card. These are all correct answers. Another correct answer is the bank. Back in the day, you used to literally hear the thing dial in on a modem, and you would hear ding, 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 and it would dial in and it would literally send the transaction over the modem. Now the internet's silent. Another correct answer would have been the bank who's answering that phone call and then putting that through. Another correct answer would be the merchant account. Another correct answer would be the Federal Reserve Bank, where the two banks settle. There's a lot of correct answers here, but that's kind of weird. Whose money is this?
in the case of debit, it's your money, right? It's not like credit where the collateral is on the credit provider.
So in a credit transaction, you're using the payment card network, the money's coming out of the system, and then you're supposed to pay it back. It could be said that that is less like being your money than a debit card transaction, because in a debit card, you already have the money, you're posting it, and somebody else is getting it. But now here's the question. Is it really your money? So we've got you, we've got the merchant, you're two consenting adults. You want this to go through. But there's other people that have veto power over your transaction. And let's identify them.
So the bank itself, that's one.
The bank has custody of your funds. You are trusting them to hold your funds, but then make them available upon demand. Who else?
Permission or initiate the request to cancel or whatever, modify on the transaction. But it's always the bank who, the final decision maker, let's say it this way.
They must agree for it to go through. If they do not agree, it does not go through. These are all correct answers too. I'm not looking for a certain one. I'm just trying to identify all of them.
Maybe like sometimes a third party, like PayPal, if you make purchases online.
That's good.
Like Nets, you mean?
So maybe the coffee's cannabis suffused, and Visa says, no, we're not going to allow that. We could also call this signing authority. Maybe there's a different way to pay for this coffee that does not require a bank to participate. Maybe there's a way we can buy this coffee without anybody's consent except you and the merchant.
Cash.
The coffee shop, they accept the cash, and you get coffee. It feels like nobody else is in the transaction, right?
Yeah.
So now here's the question. Is that your money? Is it your money and you have full control over it?
At that moment, yes. If I have $10 in my hand, I feel control.
Cash can be stolen away by anyone. You don't have full control, or you may lose it.
You could lose cash.
Yeah.
Up to a certain limit, I guess you can have control. But if you have too much cash, it becomes a problem.
Well, let's make an example. Let's say you've got this cash. I'm from the US and I want to buy a boat in Europe and I want to use cash. Does that work? Can you buy a boat with cash?
Yeah. Oh, yes, I saw it.
All right.
I'm literally picturing Wolf of Wall Street. There's one scene in the movie.
Oh, yeah. That's the scene. I'm going to do that scene. All right, here's the scene. Here's the scene. How much does this boat cost? It's a little tiny boat. What's it cost?
I guess $70.
$7,000? I have $7,000 right here. All right.
50. Oh, 50.
I got $7,000. We're going to buy a boat in my wallet right now. I'm going to go buy this boat. Can I take this money and go buy a boat right now? I mean, do you want this money? Do you going to sell me your boat or what?
Depends.
If I have an old boat, then you give me that cash, I would sell it, honestly.
You're going to sell it? All right. Anybody else have a boat you want to sell?
The seller wants to take US dollar.
Well, but if I'm going to use euros, then I have to exchange the money. And there's another party to that transaction. So you're right. I have to find somebody who wants dollars. A bigger boat. Okay? I got more money. I got $10,000. I got 20. I got stacks. I got stacks here just for this presentation.
Where did you find that?
I got $20,000 in my hands right now. I'm trying to buy a boat in Europe. Can I use this money to buy a boat in Europe? And is this my money in my hands?
Now it's getting sketchy. Where did this money come from will be a question.
You're selling the boat. I mean, this is up to you if you want to answer this question or not.
But then I have to use it somehow.
I mean, you got money or a boat. It's up to you.
Yo, buy me a boat.
See? See? All right, we got old bills, we got new bills here.
Is there some reason why you can't buy a $20,000 boat anywhere you want in the world?
There is.
Anti-money laundering, perhaps?
Close. There's a specific problem here that some people here are going to know.
The customs at the border,
What border?
when you cross a country's border at, like, I don't know, airport.
That's the problem. There's a limit to the amount of cash you can bring across a national border.
Is it 10,000?
It is
USD?
10,000. Vicky, I told you. Every
I tried to
class,
remember.
somebody knows this answer. So now the question is, if I can't take this money across a border, is it my money? Do you feel like this is your money if there's limitations on where you can take it?
Yeah, it's kind of like, it feels like it is your money, but it's like you don't have full control over it.
Yeah. It's controlled by the government.
Yeah.
What about gold? Should I throw this money? Should I throw it? Have my kids clean it up.
Gold is heavy to carry around.
Yeah,
heavier.
exactly. I was about to say. I mean, how can you transact with gold? It's like one big piece.
Gold come in small lumps. They come in coins that are a standardized size. They're serial numbered. They're stamped. You can test them. You can weigh them. And they are used in commerce. You can use gold to buy artwork. Sometimes people do that. You can use gold to buy, I'm sure people have sold ships before with gold. The same issue applies with gold. If you try to take gold over a border, there is a limit. And they x-ray you, so they will actually find the gold easier than they will find the cash. This is the beginning. I hope this wasn't too technical. I think you want to have an idea, like this is not going to be like some nerd technical stuff. This is really how you learn about blockchain. This is how you are learning right now. And also, I got the wrong accoutrement for my whiskey, so I have to go get this other bottle real fast. I had orange bitters in my whiskey, but actually I want cardamom. So there we go. So this is the beginning of our discussion on ERC20. The main point that I wanted to make in this exercise was showing you that you do not have control over the money. Correction. You have some control over the money, but other people also have signing authority with you. We're going to see a big contrast with ERC20 and Bitcoin. Other things work as well, but ERC20 is just what I'm calling this. So let's look at this model. Here we have some entity. There's a picture here of a bank. This is an ICO or somebody's creating tokens for some reason, and they're going to create the tokens. Step 2, they're going to send those tokens to this guy, George. The final step, this guy, George, is going to send the tokens to this girl, Mary, over here. There's a fundamental difference here in this diagram in an ERC20 in a Bitcoin versus cash and all the money hitherto known. Got the 12-year?
I would have to say it's not regulated by a government, and there's no limitations on the transactions over cryptocurrency.
There's no limitations. Regulations, there might be, but it doesn't matter. There's no limitations. Limit. We're talking about limits here. That's the right answer. Limits, another way to call this is signing authority. The person who makes the limit, the limiter, is the person who has authority. The limitee is the person who is limited. So in this situation, George acts upon his own accord. That is a major innovation here. And that means George can send whatever the hell he wants to send. And that is what makes Bitcoin and ERC20s different than money has ever been known. Briefly about ERC20s, here are some different use cases. EOS was a blockchain token on Ethereum that was used as an ICO to raise money for their network. I believe these tokens transferred over into EOS, and that's another network that's out there. 0x is a network for buying and trading tokens. It's an intermediary. And these tokens were also kind of an ICO for that. BAT, Basic Attention Token, is built into the Brave browser. And this is a network where people that are using the browser versus advertisers versus the people making ads, the people consuming the ads, and the platform are all moving tokens around. And this is the value of those tokens. And there's Kanya Coin, a payment token where you would kind of like Upwork or Elance or Freelancer or Odesk, where you would pay other people to do things. Gitcoin is another one like this. And this is kind of just a payment token. What I want to show you is that there's different ways that you can use this money, tokens, ERC20 things. And that's what they look like. Drawing a big contrast, I want to get into ERC 721. So what is ERC 721? 3 companies per day, according to OpenSea 2018, with a total value market for the whole ERC 721 market of $24 million. Huge growth potential. Obviously, it's a lot larger than that now. Different use cases include pictures of cats, artwork, stuff inside games, property. I want to give you 2 use cases for ERC 721s that make sense and kind of just contrast them and see, how they work differently. In the first one, this is called the companion model. This is an ERC 721 token with a physical item. This item happens to be artwork. The token is going with the artwork. You could also, probably easier to understand would be like a watch or a luxury good. So there's an issuer for the token. You get the watch and the token, and then you give it to somebody else. No limits, no intermediaries, no signing authority. And it goes with it together. I wanted to ask you about bags. Does anybody here have a bag? Like, we're talking about like a fancy bag.
Yes, Marc Jacobs.
Marc Jacobs? And when you bought it, did it come with a certificate of authenticity?
Yeah, I had like a little label inside, or like a card.
When you sell the bag, do you sell it with the certificate or without the certificate?
With?
Yep. So they stay together. So that's this stage right here. You're going to give it to somebody else. If you're buying a bag, do you want the certificate or do you not care?
You do want it.
So now here's the critical question. If you're buying a bag and it does not have the certificate with it, what are you buying?
Potentially a fake one. You're buying the bag itself.
You're the only person who ever said it that way. Potentially a fake bag. Every other time I've given this, the answer was a fake bag. But you said potentially fake bag. I love it because that's the more correct answer. Is that worth the same amount or a different amount than a bag with a certificate?
So it's either the original price or the price you want to pay for the original bag, or, it's actually worth a lot less because it's fake.
Okay, so this is really interesting. Without the certificate, the value of the bag is worth a lot less. Therefore, subtraction, the certificate is worth a lot. And the certificate is the companion to the bag. Things with serial numbers are NFTs, whether or not you use blockchain. So I use a very expansive definition of the word NFT. Okay, I want to give you a different model for NFTs and ERC 721s. This is called the custody token. In this scenario, we have a token and we're going to exchange it for something else. So we're going to give somebody a thing, they're going to give us a token. We're going to give the token back and they're going to give us the thing. In this example, let's talk about a coat check. So we're going to a club and we've got this big heavy coat and we want to dance. So what do?
You pay €1 and you give it away, and then you get a number, and then you get your jacket back with your number.
And then what?
Then you walk away, you dance, and then you come back with your number. Then you give the number to the lady in the wardrobe, and then they get you your jacket.
So this is how the coat check is supposed to work. And it usually does work. Has anybody lost a jacket at a coat check?
Actually not.
It's a pretty good system. Why is it a good system? Why does this system work? What we're talking about here is critical to understanding smart contracts, NFT. All these things are super important, but they're related to codes. Why does the coat check model work?
Because of the number. Because each number is different. And if no one else has your number, they really can't get your code.
Because there is a person matching the number.
There's a person who's in charge of the number. What could go wrong in this situation? Be creative.
The kid could give you a wrong code.
You could be given the wrong code, but it looks the same as yours.
Well, someone who's really drunk can just go and get my code by accident.
The coat check person gets robbed.
Let me just tell everybody here, coats are worth a lot of money.
The club can get on fire and everything will burn.
Or you cannot find the keys.
What if you get your coat back and it's like damaged?
You could get the wrong coat back. You might get a better coat.
You could get a better outcome.
The kid at the wardrobe could like take all the coats with him and just run away and sell them on a black market.
That's right. The kid who makes €1 per coat could walk away with hundreds or thousands of euros per coat by just absconding with the codes. So now the critical question, the whole thing that matters with smart contracts and NFTs and blockchain and all this is, why doesn't the wrong person get the code? Why don't your coats get all yucky? Why doesn't the kid steal all the coats?
Because there's consequences for the kid.
The kid, what could happen to the kid?
Get arrested.
The kid, who has a positive EV strategy for taking coats and walking away with thousands of dollars, thousands of euros, takes on a risk of being arrested, okay? What if the kid and the club were colluding together? Police come, but then the restaurant doesn't have any video. The video camera wasn't working. Why doesn't that happen?
Reputation loss, the place doing business.
There's a place doing business. They have a risk of losing reputation if somebody steals the codes and the video is lost, because that would probably allude to the fact that they were cooperating. Okay, so here's a question. If you go to a carnival, so a carnival is an outdoor event inside of a tent. They have seating and lots of stuff going on there. And it's a very large event. Motorcycles on fire, everything's on fire, everything's crazy. And they have a coat check. Would you check your expensive coat there?
No, because you can't identify people. At the carnival, you can look however you want to look. You're behind the mask.
Oh, okay. So the coat check person could be in disguise.
Yeah.
I'm taking you on tour. All right. This is great. This is a new answer. There's a reduced liability of being caught because disguise is normal in a carnival, and the coat check person could be disguised. Great answer. Final question. There's a pop-up restaurant. So on Monday, it could be one restaurant, and then Tuesday, they're gone. Wednesday, there's another restaurant. At this type of a restaurant, would you check your expensive coat?
I wouldn't just be, well, interesting question. I was going to say I wouldn't just because there's, they're going to switch owners and maybe one owner blames another owner, or maybe they have different policies, because I guess the reputation harm from a location point of view, it wouldn't stick. It sounds like it wouldn't stick.
It's like you can't trace them.
And the value of their reputation is less than the cost of the coat. Now it's Tornado. So me and Tornado were there, and we spent $40, $50, and maybe a couple other people showed up. So that was like a couple $100. If this person wanted to jack my jacket, they would have made much more money than the pizza that they sold us. Therefore, the dominant strategy here to steal the jacket. The value of reputation is future sales. The reputation is just insufficient to cover the value of the jacket. That's it. That is why we trust or we do not trust people with our very valuable jackets. And everybody understands these ideas. They understand them so quickly because I didn't have to bring up theories. I just ask you, do you trust this person? Do you trust that person? Everybody knows. When we compare this now back to blockchain, on blockchain, some of these assurances are not there. On blockchain, if you steal something, there's a low risk that you'll be caught and that the police will get you. Video cameras don't matter. So the reputational value is a lot different on blockchain. And that is the custodian model, ERC 721. You give somebody a thing, you get a token, you give the token back, you get the thing. This is also a security. If you go to a coat check and you get a ticket, what happens if you give that ticket to somebody else? How does that work? If you got your boyfriend there, you give the ticket to your boyfriend gets the coat. You could sell the ticket. This is also why I've heard so many people who get confused in the blockchain, they get lost in the sauce, and they say, well, if I have wine in my basement, I can mint NFTs of those wine and I can sell them. That doesn't work. If you have wine in your basement, you being a normal person, you cannot just create NFTs of the wine and sell them because you do not have a reputation of selling wine. And it would be very profitable for you to just keep the NFT money and keep the wine. I know this works for coat checks, but this does not work for random people selling wine in their basement because of the reputational difference. Wrapping this up, the future of blockchain will include lots of different types of NFTs. NFTs are the most important part of blockchain because they connect to the real world. This will include identification cards, securities, like code checks, but way more interesting, and certificates of authenticity. And they're going to take over the world. In fact, they have taken over the world because NFTs include not just blockchain, but QR codes. If a QR code has a serial number on it, that is an NFT. There's lots of other NFTs out there, and so you don't need to think too hard about it to find NFTs in your house. Just happens to be now they're on blockchain, you can do other stuff with it.